show, and it's an honor to have you on my show as well. And Callie is the host of Dark Matters. There is a link to her website and to her YouTube page in the description. And so, ever since we first met, I've been seeing language synchronicities, so to speak, all over the place. And so I wanted to kick us off today with a little bit of a game, if you don't mind. I would like to pitch to you a couple of, I guess, I don't know what they're called, homonyms or whatever, but word synchronicities, and kind of get your take on some of these that I've seen recently. If any
Okay,
of
cool.
them don't jive, we can pass. So, the first one I noticed is that the word lucid, Lucifer, and Lucy being a term for LSD, and then they also named a Cro-Magnon man or woman after Lucy as well. Can you tell
Yeah.
me about the Lucy lucid going on here?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've just kind of nailed it, really. I suppose that's kind of what I do. I wouldn't even kind of class myself as just an etymologist, particularly, but I love etymology, and I tend to. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, and I see the code in things, and it kind of my brain goes. So
Right.
yeah, I mean that's kind of it, really. I mean, Lucifer obviously is light, so lucid as we become lucid in the dream.
Mhm.
As we're in this condition or state, whatever
Right.
we think it is, whether it's holographic or whether it's the simulacrum or a simulation. So we know that the sigil of Lucifer, as it says quite rightly in your book, Joey, how we kind of perceive this place. I
Right.
always say it's kind of like Plato's cave. So you've got the flicker of wall, the flicker of light on the wall, and the people chained in the cave think that this is real. So I
Right.
always kind of see Lucifer and the light as that, really, which is why we get the six-colored rainbow. Luciferians kind of praise the six colors because it leaves off the crown color, the crown chakra, which is
Ah,
violet. So it's
seven
into those kind of,
chakras. Yeah.
yeah, and it's always the six with Luciferians because six is obviously the number. They love the six. We're actually in the year 2024, which is the year of the X. I'm just in the middle of doing an X decode. So the two and the four is the six. And we know that we are, this is why we got Twitter X. This is why Madonna's wearing the X over her eye on the eye patch. XXX all the way because they're signaling to each other about kind of what's going to be coming. So yeah, I think this is it. When we become being lucid, really, which is why Jesus and Lucifer, the two sides of the same coin, the two sides of the same, well, the left and the right hand path, but they both show us, illuminate us perhaps to what this dark deception is. So as much as Lucifer is kind of linked to being the deceptor,
Right.
he actually kind of paradoxically illuminates it for us when we start to kind of decode and read the symbols. And of course, quite rightly, LSD is
Right.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. So again, becoming lucid or being illuminated. Because again, we all know about the Illuminati, very naughty boys and girls, the Illuminati. So again, it's not so much that they kind of worship, and again it's shipping terms, they kind of worship the kind of perverse elements again, like of Saturn,
Mm.
because they want death and destruction and suffering, and but like we said with Saturn, again that has two sides to it, as most things do. So it's not that Lucifer is particularly the darkest character on the checkerboard. Jesus and Lucifer are both the morning stars. They
The,
both illuminate us but in different on different paths. I think that's how I kind of see it anyway. And then
right.
Lucy, of course, they called saying that we all kind of evolved from apes. They called the first,
That was kind of the core of my question, is why, I mean,
yeah,
it could be a coincidence that they just named her that, but
yeah,
we don't really believe in those necessarily, do we? And are they
no,
saying that we evolved from Lucy? Because that is ludicrous.
it is ludicrous. And again, it gets to this reset that they're all doing. So they want us completely detached from who we are. Hence this, transhumanist agenda as well, this transgender agenda. And I've nothing, again, as I say, I've nothing wrong with if you want to dress up as a woman and remove your parts, knock yourself out, but we know that it's an agenda and we know that it's being pushed on us. And again, it's to get us into this deeper level of forgetting for me, you see, because they want us to forget where we've come from. They want us to forget who we are. Hence the reset. And we know that Set is the god of the underworld, you know, the Egyptian god of the underworld.
Yeah,
Saturn, Satan, Set, Satan. Satan is X again. So we're back to the X decode, you know, the numeral
yeah,
X. So, yeah, I mean, to say that we've evolved from an ape is just absolutely ridiculous. But then we're getting
right,
into our origin myths, of course, which
right.
you described, you know, way in far more detail and far more beautifully than I, Joy. But yeah, I've got my thoughts and my ideas about it. But yeah, like I say, a big thing that they love as well at the moment is Edgar Allan Poe pops up a lot. You know, there was a good series called Altered Carbon because I have a theory that basically they are transporting their consciousness into different avatars. And we say, you know, they, them, the elites. And I think basically these are people that have survived the deluge with the technology and they know what's coming. And like I say, this year of the X, they are coding to each other that they know that there's going to be this great reset.
Right,
And it's a reset of time. And it's you know, whether there's going to be some kind of big cataclysm, they know that these things go in cycles. So again, yeah, we know that our history is a complete fabrication, and like it said in the
right.
film Lucy as well. Do you remember the film Lucy where she starts using all of her brain with is it Scarlett Johansson?
I see. That sounds very interesting. I mean,
Well,
I'll have to check that one out. I mean,
yeah, check that out because there's a famous quote in it, and I use it all the time because and we're talking about time because that's what this is about for me. And you know, time is what gives matter legitimacy. Yeah. So
right,
that's what you know. Time slows down energy to a slow vibration, so we can experience matter. So if we didn't have time, we wouldn't experience, you know, yeah, matter
right,
basically. And there's a big, huge quote at the end of Lucy that talks about this. You know, if you have a car and you speed it up infinitely, without time, it would just disappear. So time
right.
is what gives this construct. It's or is the we're in the trap of time, but whether
It's
it's a trap or not, you decide. But again, that film was called Lucid for you know,
right. Lucid Fur.
light,
Now I'm waiting
illuminate.
for Maynard James Keenan of Tool to start a band called Lucid Fur. I could see that. But
Well,
it's funny you say
again,
that.
what did he think about his famous song? Because I was a big Tool fan, Joey, because you're a
Yeah.
metalhead like me, you know,
Right.
and it was like, you know, wash it all away, you know, like mum's gonna come back and, you know, fix
Right.
it and put it back the way that it ought to be. And apparently he's a 33-degree Freemason,
Right.
Maynard. But, you
Well,
know, don't quote me because I might be, you know, I've no evidence of that.
well,
There's a
there's a
lot.
reason he says "learn to swim" like 48 times in the damn song. And that's what we need to do with
Exactly.
this reset coming up is learn to swim. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing you said that about if you move infinitely fast, you're everywhere all at once, hence you're omnipotent. And I'm reading a book by Bentov right now, who worked for the CIA, who came to the conclusion that moving at infinite speed is exactly the same as being at rest. And I couldn't help but be like, that's what the Zen masters were saying all
Yeah.
along the entire time. But in there, you said something about the equivalent of Satan, and uh, and that reminds me of I know we've talked about before about Saturn, Satan, but now I can't because of where we went with it. I can't help but think of Santa and the way that the Christmas tree. We just throw Christmas trees up. And we'd have no one questions this shit. Why do we take a tree inside and take all the
Yeah.
lights outside? There's gotta be a reason here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it comes from the root STN. So again, Satan, Santa. You know, I did
So can
a
I
I did
trust my buddy Stan? Is he a bad guy? I don't know if
he's a definite demon, yeah. Well, and the thing is, you know, vowels are you know, the English language is a construct. So the clues in the title, it's a you know, it's a con. The English language vowels, you know, the Hebrew language, which is kind of, you know, going back to, you know, what kind of would have been classed as like, you know, our original kind of languages, you know, came from Hebrew. They didn't have
right,
any vowels. So we can
right,
that's how, you know, as a when we're breaking down words, you know, to remove the vowels and to be left with those kind of core roots is a bit of a, you know, a tool to
Right.
dissect the language, because AEIOU, which is one of why, it's one of the first brainwashing tools they get to do to our offspring, to our sons and daughters, is to get them to, learn the language and repeat AEIOU. To get you to repeat the alphabet. Now, the alpha means first, and bet is a bet. So it was the first bet, and it was the first con. And again,
Oh,
AEIU.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. Eiau was a demigod from ancient Babylon, Eiau. So they're getting you to chant a demon's name again and again and again. A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U.
Jeez. It's like it by infiltrating the very core of language itself, it
Yeah,
causes a rift in the human I guess reality.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
we project, as Terence McKenna said, we project reality based on language. If you don't have a word for the color blue, you don't see the color
no,
blue. So,
yeah,
I mean, by infiltrating our language, they have usurped everything, and that is amazing. And that's something that I guess the only way to transcend that is to be aware of it, to be educated on it.
yeah,
That's why,
mm,
despite yes, being a jack of all trades, that's why I kind of like bring you for this particular subject because this is stuff that I'm not necessarily up on because I'm a man of words myself. But if you're not aware of the words that you're using, then
yeah.
you gotta be careful. But I got another one for you, and this one might be silly. Whenever researching Mars, it was a male dominated essence. It's very anima. It's very it's masculine, right? But we use the word male. One thing I hate in this world the most is checking my mailbox. There's nothing good in it ever. It's
Yeah.
always people just trying to destroy me, or at least that's how it feels. Is there a connection between masculine male and male MAIL?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So again, it's like getting the word exercise and exercise. You can exercise a demon or you can go to the gym and exercise. But
Right,
phonetically they sound the same. So again, with male and male, phonetically they sound the same. So phonetics goes to the Phoenicians. And we know the Phoenicians were the maritime, they were the traders of old. So
right,
again, in phonetics, Phoenicians. But yeah, if you're getting male, then as we know, we're all classed, well, maybe some people don't know, but we're classed still as combatants at war in the system. Because I mean, certainly over here, in we'll use the UK for ease because the UK is a corporate entity, the United Kingdom PLC. But when you get mail, um, you get it a lot of the times. Obviously, it'll be in the all caps, so it'll say,
right,
Mr. J Phipps, but it'll be in all caps letters.
right,
So that is the all caps, that is representing the legal fiction or your straw man, which is
right.
actually showing that you are a debtor in the system. So basically the all caps is called the capitus maximus. So basically what that represents is if you get windowed mail, so you'll get like an envelope with a window, they call it like a window envelope.
Right.
The window actually represents the coffin. So it represents that you are dead and you are a dead debtor in their system. And actually, like I say, the all caps represents that as well. It represents the dead
Yeah.
legal figure
It's
because
a
we
very
can't
sneaky
do
thing to put. It's like the altar that they have when you go on the stand in
anything.
court. That little window inside that envelope is a little sneaky way to
Yeah.
capture you.
Yes, exactly. And it actually, like I say, it represents the coffin, which is a coffin is to confine, to box in. So again, it represents the boxing in, the boxes, the cubes of Saturn. And that's why you get all caps letters. If you go into, I mean, I've got a slight weird obsession. I love old graveyards and churches because church comes from the Roman goddess Circe, which she used to take people into her house and brainwash them. So that's where the word church evolves from as well. But actually, that's why they put all caps on the tombstones. You call them tombstones, I think, over there in America. We call them
Yes.
gravestones,
Oh, I
headstones.
see.
And,
Okay.
and that's why you'll always get the capitals on there. And the church will surround themselves with the graves because that's the kind of spoils of war, if you like. So they're basically saying that you didn't know who you were when you were alive, but like say, I class this as the land of the dead. You think that's air you're breathing, you're already dead. This is the land of the dead fiction. And again, it's for us to, I think, but it's just my opinion, to kind of, as we know, go through or walk through Hades, long dark nights of the soul, to transform, to alchemize that pain and suffering, become quite heart centered and see things as they truly are, as Manly P. Hall would say. Once we read the language of symbolism, then we can see things as they truly are, and then we do that with heart, and then it's the phoenix from the flames moment, really. But yeah, that's, and again, another thing I should say about male. I'll finish on this one. But what we're classed as is, under maritime law, it's all linked to shipping, yeah? So maritime, ma means sea, I is of sea of time. So maritime law under admiralty law, because remember, we're under admiralty because we're classed as combatants, it'll
Mhm.
even say on your birth certificate that you're an informant, and that's what that means. Basically, we're in the shipping lanes, so it goes back to mail. So the postman, or your postie,
Right,
they actually have one of the highest offices. So when you're getting mail, he's actually he's classed as being in the shipping lanes,
right,
and we can actually use postal stamps, and it's actually called postal mechanics on legal documents. They would have used it many years ago. So yeah, the mail is a very big part of the law, but also, like saying, decoding, the fiction and the banking and the shipping terms, because
right,
that's where we get passport from. It's all shipping terms to passport, and they obviously chop your head off on your passport because it goes back to being the dead fiction, being
right.
decapitated.
You got your head inside that little box right there,
Yeah,
and then
you
that way
fine.
they have to put your height in the actual, writing there. And when it comes to like male, MALE, it's like we know about the cremation of care, and it was brought to my attention recently by Sarah, the alchemist, that the cremation of care is essentially, well, care being a feminine archetype, is that they're kind of eliminating the archetype of the feminine energy to mankind. And that's not a good thing, because if we know anything about unrecorded history, Mars fell pretty hard due to being an over masculine society, you know,
Yeah,
war.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, certainly that, the unicorn represents the feminine as well. And certainly over here, with the crown, and we know that crown is linked to Kronos, which is father time.
I
There's
see.
the green chakra as well, that basically, yeah, they actually, there's the lion and the unicorn, because the male is represented by the lion and the female is represented by the unicorn. So the unicorn is chained, so they always have the unicorn chained on, royal symbology, and certainly over here anyway, which represents this chaining of the feminine. But obviously, this return of the matriarch really over the patriarch is kind of what we're kind of seeing at the moment. Allegedly, if you kind of buy into all that, but
Well,
yes,
it's all,
very
yeah. I not only do I mean, I don't know if I would use the word buy into it, but we're certainly here, and we got to play the game. So in a way, we all are buying into it, And that's so funny that the lion not Alice in Wonderland, the Yellow Brick Road, he didn't have a brain,
yeah,
and
yeah, definitely.
so
Yeah.
there's little inspirations everywhere like that.
Yeah, and I mean, some of your listeners, I'm probably talking about stuff that they might not kind of understand, I suppose. Our straw man, and it goes like you say to Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. The straw man, he had a sack of straw instead of a brain, and he's classed as the dead, lifeless thing. And basically, what happens is when we are born, and we're not, but we are then kind of signed or registered into the system via the birth certificate. Now, the birth certificate is actually a bond. It's actually a banking ledger, and it creates a trust in our names, which is called the cking trust. And basically, what that means is it's your trust via that birth bond is your equitable share of the earth and its resources. And this is where the system has this huge con on us. So basically, we're all backed by the International Monetary Fund by a million, well, dollars or pounds. This is where the saying, you're worth your weight in gold comes from. Because back, you actually have, say I weighed 8 pounds when I was born. £8 of gold is put away from me, and I'm backed by this bond. Now, what they do is they keep that bond for themselves. They class it as the fact that we've gifted it to them until we kind of come and reclaim the estate. So really, we are all trust fund babies, and we're all worth a lot of money because then they
Right.
trade these bonds on the stock market. We are the stock. They call us the guayim or the cattle. And
Livestock.
yeah, and it's breaking. This is kind of what I do. I break down these systems and show people that basically how the system is just screwing you at every fucking point, really. So when you get a bill, and the clue is in the title, they're billing you for something. Your bond, as it's already been prepaid. So your utilities, taxes, things like that. We already have these trust accounts, these funds accounts, and then what they get you to do is they make out that they're giving you some kind of service. It's already prepaid from our bonds, and they get you to repay it. And the clue again, it's in the language. Re is again, so you're paying it twice. So
Wow.
we become these debt slaves, and we become, they're all trading our bonds and asset stripping us of billions, trillions. I mean, it's unfathomable the amount of asset, and wealth that they take from us, whilst keeping us on this, perpetual hamster wheel of debt.
Right. And talk about being born into it. I mean, golly, that's the we are immersed in this on day one, and how it makes it very difficult to combat.
Yeah.
But that's why I guess HP Blasphemy, or I butchered her name there, talks about the
Yeah.
importance of living within the paradise of your own being. That way, these things the black cube, so to speak, can't penetrate into your psyche any more than it already has.
Yeah, and this is it. And all these roads, they lead to Rome, because Washington DC is the military arm. City of London, or Baby London they call it, which is Babylon, Baby London, and
You
Vatican
are on a
City.
roll. Oh my god.
I know it's in my head. I don't sleep. No, I'm only kidding.
You need to write a book.
I am doing, if I kind of get time. I've got, I mean, I'm notepad mad. I mean, I've just been like, I have books of these like just lying
Yeah.
about all over the place, like a mental patient. But if I could if I could actually draw it all together, but yeah, it's like a mad note person all over the place. But it
Right.
eventually, hopefully, comes together. But yeah, I mean, the research is there, and the knowledge is there. But I definitely will at some point. But these three are basically what they funnel all the money through. All roads lead to Rome. So it's Washington DC, the City of London, and the Vatican City. They're actually independent states, yeah. So they have their own rules, their own laws,
Right.
same as Switzerland with the IMF, etc.
The holy trinity of bullshit. The way
Exactly,
I
because
see
it's
it.
always three. Yeah, it's always three in legal
Well,
terms.
a
And
lot of these come in threes, and I can't help but notice that as well. And again, it might be a
yeah,
coincidence, but like for example, when I was listening to NSYNC the other day, which which is okay. It's okay for me to do. Song came on and it said bye bye bye, and it made me realize that BUY, BY, and BYE are all that's very confusing for people who don't speak
yeah,
English, because the word by,
yeah,
and then there's do, DEWDO, and then DUE, do, and then you got do do, which you could have a lot of fun with there. And then I mean uh, it's always coming in threes, night, night, and night, which reminds me of the Holy Grail. The knights had to search for the Holy Grail in the dark night. Meat.
yeah.
I You ever notice that? I'm sorry, I'm on a roll. I'm on,
Oh, no,
but
good. It's good.
the word meat, meat, is specifically means the edible portion of a creature, not just the body of them. But when we never meet a place. Like, we can't go meet London. We don't say that, but we meet people,
Yeah,
meet, and it's
yeah.
specifically for people. And that's kind of strange as well, because it almost gives off a cannibalistic vibe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and don't get me started on Baal, because we cannibalism. Baal is obviously, related to Moloch and, the god of child sacrifice, which is why we get football, and that's why it's played on a pitch, because a pitch creates a frequency. If you look at a lot of the stadiums from above, they're eyes, aren't they? Some of you may
I
have seen.
was watching episode 3 of your show, Decoding the Clown World, and
Oh
you
yeah.
showed a picture of several stadiums, all of which I never noticed this before, look like a semi-closed eye.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and we know that like over say for you guys, the Super Bowls are huge energy harvests, aren't they? And they're huge opportunities for they, them, whomever they you think they are, to obviously to create that energy harvest, but obviously to tell us, in the symbols and the codes, what they're doing. And
Right,
what's happening, and this is where we get cannibalism from. And I mean, Baal, we've got the House of Lords over here, which is another decode. Lord in Hebrew means Baal. So taking the Bible, and the bull again relates to, Moloch and the Taurus. I mean, we've got to say who wrote the Bible. Lord in Hebrew means Baal. So we have the House of Lords for, our parliament, but it actually translates to the House of Baal. So we're we just kind of we go along in life, and we just don't know what it is that we're looking at really.
right,
And in scripture they removed the name of the creator and replaced it with Lord in capitals. And like I say, you'll see Lord through scripture, in capitals many times, and it actually means Baal. So they replaced it at some point. But
right.
yeah,
The
so
original name, Yahweh, which was replaced with the all caps Lord,
yeah,
is kind of synonymous with DNA, therefore being us. So Yahweh is literally the building blocks of us.
our DNA, yeah, that's right, isn't it? It's got a specific number, hasn't it? Is it
10,
10, 5,
6,
6,
5,
5?
6.
That's it. And yeah, so it's actually, yeah, literally written within our code. I mean, I know you take somebody like Paul Wallace, he will talk about Yahweh as in that he was like a bit of a bad guy. In Hebrew, they would call it, obviously there was no vowels, so, and I'm gonna maybe upset some Hebrew scholars by pronouncing it like this, but Ivavave. So you wouldn't kind of pronounce the vowels of it. So there's a few different kind of ideas as to who Yahweh is or is not. I mean, in the Law of One, which I've kind of studied quite a lot, Yahweh was granted permission by the Council of Nine to come to Earth and genetically alter the bipedals of Earth. But apparently, the Orion group, now this kind of goes in with kind of all the ancient myths of Sumer and Egypt, is that basically the Orion group were given they created the Anunnaki, and that the Anunnaki kind of came from the sky, from the constellation of Orion, because that's the Orion group, and then that links into Sirius, as you'll know,
Right.
and they all worship, or they all are pointing to kind of that Sirius A, Sirius, is it Sirius A, Sirius B, I think, or all of
Oh
them.
yeah, there's 3 of them. There's 3 Siriuses, and
Yeah,
we didn't know that till very recently, but the
yeah,
Dogon tribe did. But yeah,
yeah,
supposedly Orion was a placekeeper for something that you couldn't see, which would be Sirius B and Sirius A. And
yeah.
there's the word serious right there that also
Mhm.
sounds like the word serious, and that's some serious business right there. And there's no way that's a coincidence. That is way too close because
Yeah,
that was the most meaningful star to almost every sect and religion.
yeah.
Our buddy here, and sometimes when I see a truly special comment, I want to shout out. So Mike says, "Are you two just going to talk about balls all day?" Uh,
Very,
Perfect.
very
And but
possibly.
so speaking of balls,
That's
uh,
well, talking
whenever
about
we,
the tree, why do we
uh,
bring a tree in? We put baubles on it, baubles, baubles, balls, more
right,
balls. And actually,
right.
it says in scripture, don't chop down a tree, an evergreen, and bring it into a house. We're not supposed to do it. So they basically get us doing anything it tells you not to do, they'll invert it and get us to do it. But yeah,
It's
there's
like
there's some more balls for you.
right. It's like opposite day every day with some of these traditions. But you mentioned okay, we play ball, and we do it on a pitch. And you had mentioned, I believe, in episode 4 of Decoding the Clown World, is that the it being termed pitch is no coincidence, considering that they changed the normal go-to frequency from 432 hertz, which I tune all my music to for our videos,
Yeah.
into to 440. And I, even though I changed my music to that frequency, which is, by the way, one quarter step down from our typical tuning, Pantera does it, by the way. Um,
Ah.
and I don't know why I do that. I just do that because
Mm.
I've seen online a lot that the 432 hertz is more soothing to our natural element than the 440 is. But outside of that, I don't know why it was changed.
Yeah, apparently it was they call it the devil's interval, don't they? So, a lot of our music that's played on the radio, not that I kind of really listen to the radio anymore. I mean, I kind of stopped listening to music for quite a long time because, as you say, I don't know, a lot of it can be, especially the music I tend to like, a bit depressing, really.
Yeah.
Because kind of,
Hey,
oh,
that's catharsis. It's okay to love metal. It's a release of energy that we don't want in us. It's like
yeah.
getting that out.
I think I've come round to that now, like, but for I think a long time I was kind of going through the long dark nights of the soul, and I kind of just turned away from it for quite a long time. But I suppose it's seen as quite, kind of quite dark. But again, as we know, when we're trying to get on that path to adepthood, that it's it's the middle way, isn't it? You've got to kind of embrace
Right.
the light and the dark.
Right.
Both squares on the chessboard, as I say. So yeah, I mean, they changed the frequency of music on the radio from 432, as you say, which is much more it's in line with our own frequencies because we know that everything is frequency. We know now that we can cure a lot of disease or disease in the body with frequency. You find the frequency and match it. It's kind of like, they were finding certain cancers, and just how as an opera singer can smash a glass with a
Right.
certain pitch of a voice, they were smashing and killing cancers and things like that. Same with tuning forks, how
Right.
it makes the balls move if you get the same, and it's all that kind of thing. And again, I'm no expert in that. And you can
Same,
look
but I
into
mean,
it.
we don't have to be an expert on it to know, to see it in action. Because, as you said, yeah, you can break a glass by singing the exact pitch of which it vibrates at. Whenever soldiers cross a bridge, they're told to come out of lockstep, or else the bridge
Mhm.
could very well collapse if they meet the same frequency of the bridge.
Oh,
And when
yeah,
it comes to cancer cells, William Reich was practically crucified
yeah,
because he found the 11th harmonic of any particular cell that it resonated at and could destroy the cell, and you wouldn't even know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I always remember the William Wright story because it was the Kate Bush song, wasn't it? Cloud busting. If you watch the Kate Bush video, Cloud busting, it's based on the book by William Wright that I actually have. Oh, I think it's there. The
Which one
Orgone
is it?
Accumulator Handbook.
Is
Have
it
you
one of
got
these
that?
two? You got
Yeah. Well, all right, we're having a book off. You always win though, Joey. I
it's
don't
a
think
book
I
off.
can ever get to your lofty heights, like, but yeah, this was about William Wright's healing
There it is.
discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna accumulate book.
You ever read
There's
the
Joey.
Wikipedia?
We'll give him a
Hey,
go.
that's my guy.
There you
Did
are.
you
You're right
ever
next to him.
the Wikipedia? If you look up William Reich on Wikipedia, it is just horrifying. They are mean. They're like, William Reich was a crazy person who did this and scammed several people. Blah blah blah. Eventually, he went to prison because he was a terrible person, and then he died. And you're like, okay, where's the part where he cured over 300 people, like Dr. Sebi did? You know?
Yeah, yeah. And again, over here, bringing it back to the law, we have an act, and legislation, legal is not law. Law is, or legal, sorry, is given the force of law by the consent of the governed. It has to have our consent, which is something that they hide and something that they seem to have forgot. So, an act, as we, pass acts and you do, or bills over there. And what is a bill? A bill is a charge. It's all about money, you see. And a charge is electrical. It's a charge on our energy. But yeah, they're constantly making us into these debt slaves. But yeah, what was that point? I've lost my point now. What was the question?
Oh,
Well, it went
I
off
don't
on
know
one then.
because as soon as you said that, I thought of my buddy
Oh,
Bill
what
and
was
then
it?
a
The
duck's
cancer.
bill.
Sorry, the cancer. I was
Uh,
I was explaining what an act was because obviously there's the 1939 Cancer Act we have here in the UK, which basically says that you're not allowed to release a cure for cancer, and it also says that if whilst we're looking for a cure for cancer, we can't release one. So basically, it's said that it's for our safety, so that people can't be going around conning people saying I've got a cure for cancer, which okay is also important, you know, on one side of things, but also that so they can shut down anybody. And so
right,
whilst they're looking for a cure, they'll never give you one.
right. It's
So
been made illegal. It's
basically,
in the same way
in a
that
very tricky way of language, but you know, again, if you read the act, all everything about language is deceptive, really. You know, legalese they write it with, and legalese might look like English, might write like English, but it's not English. It's Black's law. Why you get Black's law books and definitions. There's the Phoenicians again, because
right,
it's coloured language. That's why the book is black. It's like a book of black magic spells, and
right,
black in legalese means coloured or counterfeit. So they're telling you that Black's law is a counterfeit language and learn the serpent tongue and use it against them. That's what I do. I do my best to try and decode the serpent cult's main tools, basically.
that's all we can do, you know? And, uh, and
Yeah.
you just mentioned a moment ago, "Oh, no, where'd it go?" Ah,
I know. I've got so much in my head. I was like, what? What's he talking
yeah.
about?
The Black's Law thing, what was it? Okay, stains for through true, the carbon thing. Oh, I was just thinking about Wormwood and Hollywood, and
Oh,
then I
yeah.
thought of something. Oh, maybe I'll.
It's gone. It'll come
It's
back.
so
It'll
it's
come
so
back.
close. It'll come back. Yeah. Oh, I hate when that happens. I've
Well, I
been
mean,
derailed.
it's like what we say. Well, once we kind of start, it all. The journey of the law is the journey of the spirit, as I say for me. So I mean, I've been awake 20 odd years, but you know, when the pandemic hit, then I went to town and I went back to my books, you know, and I was just like, you know, a cute example. Must in legalese actually means may. So you must close your business. You must wear a mask is an offer of contract. They're actually saying you may wear a mask, you may
Right.
close your business, and in our ignorance we do it because again,
Right.
it goes back to, you know, the straw man and the dead fiction and the old cat's name. That's not you. You're a living man. I'm a living woman. And we've been brainwashed and programmed in, you know, through schooling and TV and Hollywood and all the rest of it, to believe that, you know, this is it. This is who we are, that we are these debtors. And when we start to decode and break that down, then everything else fits into place. It's like going back to the, you know, the dog star, you know, the star of Sirius.
Mm,
All roads lead to Rome, yeah. And that's where all this money, all this wealth is being siphoned off us, and it goes to the Vatican.
right.
And Vati means papa, and can or cane means dog. So the Vatican means dog father, which is where we get the Godfather from and the Godfather movies because they're an Italian criminal mafia ultimately being puppeteered by something as we know far darker. So again, and it all points back to Sirius, and it all points back because they know, right? They know where they've come from. They know their history, and like I said, they are manipulating time somewhere, or they are remembering their past lives and they are
Right.
surviving these deluges. I think is my theory. So again, they're telling us all the time. This AI cube is telling us all the time. You know,
Right.
but we just need to become the coders and the decoders to learn it. We are both really, if that makes any sense.
It no, it 100% makes sense, especially because right when you said that, I remembered what I was glitching out about. Someone said they're both getting amnesia because we're both just very. It's no conspiracy. There's no tone coming through the phone that's going to erase our brain, as far as I know. But okay, did you know that there's a declassified CIA document that mentions Tartaria and the resetting of human history for the benefit of the new history makers, which would be, I guess, a couple last names that I can't say here to risk getting demonetized already more than we might. I whenever it came to the conspiracy of Tartaria, I was
Yeah,
on the fence about it because yes, these buildings and cathedrals that have cymatics and all these the beautiful things that we can't even build nowadays seemed very advanced, and they were said to be built in a couple years. And then if you look up the building company of who built these grandiose, incredible buildings, those companies never existed in the first place. So I was like, yeah, I'm on the fence about it. But then deep in a declassified CIA document, it talks about, specifically, it says the plan to reset history and the what's it called? It was like the resetting of Tartaria. And I was like, well, there
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
more to this than I thought.
Yeah, no, I that's it. What's interesting is, I think that the people that I've come across, particularly in the last, say, 6 months, which is, you obviously, Joey, like, because when I first came across your Saturn video, and there's loads of videos on Saturn, and I've researched Saturn because I was heavily researching Saturn at the time because Saturn is very linked to the law, because Saturn is obviously, that authority, and it's linked to Capricorn, and the law is ruled by Saturn, which is why the judge wears the black robes of Saturn. It's called the Saturnian robes. That's why we wear the Saturnian robes when we graduate, and we wear the squared cap,
Right.
because all the kind of, basically you're in the institution and in that system of Saturn. But yeah, I think when I find your video, it stuck out a lot, because and I'm sure as many of your fans and viewers on your channel did, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Because it just was like, just the production value of it as well, and that voice for radio, right? I was like, whoa, and it kind of blew me away. But back to kind of what I was going to say is, I think that's what's interesting about us all kind of coming together, because we're all starting to get to the same thing. And a friend of mine said something, and it really stuck with me the other day. He said, it's not so much what we're trying to find out or research or put together as remember. And
Mhm.
it's this kind of remembering feeling that I've got, or this proper knowing. And some of us are just starting to, and I think that's why, they transport their consciousness into different avatars and things like that. They are they are kind of masters of time, because really the elites, the Elohim, or they want immortality, I think. So they
Right.
kind of can be perceived as gods of time. And as we know, Saturn is, again, Father Kronos and Father Time, and time condenses matter, and it all comes back round. So I recently, some people who are watching may know, they came across a guy called Archaic, and I follow a numerologist and alchemologist called Logan Payson Piet. And these two guys are like off the charts for this, but they're basically saying the same thing that we're saying, Joey. And I was thinking this before I found you, and before I found those guys. But what's beautiful about your channels, and your channels, like, it blows me away with the detail, and it's all the dots are all starting to line up, and they're all starting to connect. And this reset, we know that they're going, oh, the great reset, the great reset, this, that. And
Right.
people are thinking it's just going to be some financial reset. And like I've always said, no, this is a spiritual reset. This is, like you said, take Tartaria. We didn't build those buildings. And if we believe we're in this holographic kind of, simulation, they're almost like, they're these leftover, these kind of remnants of all these histories that they've hidden and hid away from us. And when we're all starting to piece it together, our Capes is, he's a chronologist basically, and he believes that we're being reset every 138 years. I think he says that it is, and the next 138 years would be in 2040. 2 and 4, 24th letter of the alphabet is X. So they're all coding to each other about X again, and I'm
Yeah.
about to do a really big decode on X.
I can't wait.
It's
I cannot wait to
it's
see
been
that
great.
one.
So we know that they're hiding all this occult information from us. Like I say, it's not the Freemasons doing it. The Freemasons just
Right.
know of the secrets of this place, and they're guarding them, as you would say, Joey, from the profane.
Right.
You've got to be an adept. You've got to be getting ready to kind of have that transformation to either get out of this place or transcend this place. I mean, I don't know. That's where are we trapped here? What do you think? Do you think we're trapped here or not? I
Well,
don't know.
speaking of that question, so Daria Meredith says, "Who wants immortality in this current form? Yeesh, ego much." And I can't help but not only agree with her, but that kind of answers your question to me. There is that I am aware that this temporary vehicle that I'm driving around right now is meant to be disposed of. There's no reason to go visit grave sites because you're not visiting your loved one. And I'm sorry if that's not sensitive, and I apologize for that. But I wouldn't go visit my car after I sold it any more than I would, visit a clump of carbon that my loved one is no longer driving anymore. And it does take a lot of ego to want to be immortal in this particular form, considering that it takes leaving this form to be free in the first place. And again, not to sound dark, but I'm looking forward to the day that I can find out who I really am outside of this limited memory box that I've accumulated all this nonsense into. And I now the people talk about the black cube as a literal soul recycler, and I've said very recently that I don't necessarily agree with that. But
Yeah,
if you get stuck in the astral, and with your personality so firm, intact, as Meredith said, the ego, and you can't let go of what your personality was while driving this
yeah,
vehicle, you're going to get stuck in the astral. And of course, that energy is going to condensate and rain down and be born again into another womb. However, if you are, as the Tibetan Book of the Dead claims, and even like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, when he weighs your heart against a feather, it doesn't necessarily have to mean how at ease you are with this form. It means how at ease you are with letting it go. So you don't have to be recycled into this world again. All you have to do is let go of it. And
yeah,
when you're tethered to this world, that's what causes you to be recycled again. And yeah, they're going to feed off that energy. That's what anybody else would do, because these people or these beings need sustenance as much as anyone else does, but without having physical form, they feed on astral energy. But astral, we have to remember, is just a middle ground between the physical reality and the causal reality. People think that it's physical and astral. It ain't. The astral is kind of this membrane between the physical and the causal. If you let go of everything you are here and now, you blast through the astral and then into the causal, where, I mean, well, that's the great mystery right there as to what that exactly is, but I don't think we have words for it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, no, no, I agree, and I think it is kind of that letting go, isn't it? It's always talked about, isn't it? Attachment, and
Right.
I've talked about it. I interviewed a guy called Dave, Shaman Dave, and he
Shaman.
wasn't your traditional Shaman Dave. He wasn't your traditional shaman, but he talked about this connection to the land and how yew trees are portals, and he talked a lot about kind of the eagle's gift they call it in I think Native American language. And again, this idea of Valhalla, or, knowing who we are upon death, and actually being aware of what we're in, AKA, the lucid for the illusion, the flicker on the wall, where we all start to think this is real until we go, hang on a minute. And if we start to know that and have that gnosis, and we can kind of move that through us, maybe on death, we're not going to perhaps go, whether the moon, or the Sin AI, the Mount Sinai was the moon, or the Sin AI cube,
Oh,
and this idea of, yeah, that we kind of get recycled in that sense. I mean, that's why they get you to sign on a contract, because it's called you're sinning. To sign is to sin. And this the sine wave of time, it's linked to the sine wave of time. You go into a bank, they'll always put a cross and say sign next to the cross. So
oh my
again,
God.
yeah, yeah. Which links back to Jesus being crucified
Right,
on the cross, which is the folded cube, which represents matter, which represents the
right.
six
And then,
neutrons, six
and
electrons.
Mount Sinai is where a lot of that went down. It's like they're
Yeah.
spelling it out for us.
And again, boom, it's like, it's like Neo in the Matrix, as soon as he can, he starts to believe that he's Neo, doesn't he? And Morpheus tells him, Morpheus means god of sleep, because we've all been asleep, right?
Right.
Tells him, well, the Oracle doesn't, she tells Neo, "Oh, you're not the one." Morpheus believes that you are, but he has to believe he's the one. But then he
Right,
starts to
right.
see the code, and then he starts to do amazing things. And it's interesting, actually, even Neo was, he dons the Saturnian robes to come back into the Matrix, doesn't he? They wear the black. So
Right.
again, it's a symbol of it. But we know that the 666 is the number of the beast and the number of man. And again, they demonize pentagrams and 666, but it's, so that we don't look at it, so that we think that it's evil. But they're just powerful symbols when utilized in the right way. But we know that Christ represents this, descending into hell and this resurrection,
Right.
because that is what it's metaphorical, isn't it? We have to kind of do that. And I know you did a video on your long dark nights of the soul, and I've got my medals and t-shirts. And again, Jesus, without banging on too much, but it's important in relation to Saturn. Jesus is Jesus. It's Jupiter. Yeah, so and Peter means stone, and the stone, Jupiter being Jesus, it's a Christian fiction basically. Christian is a Roman fiction. Ananity is an annuity, which is a tax system. So the Roman civil tax system is Christianity. So I don't mean to upset any Christians watching, because being of the Christ that's a beautiful thing. He overturned the tables of
Right.
of commerce in his father's temple. He raised Lazarus from the dead, and that's symbolic of us raising the legal fiction. He walked upon the water, which is what we should do. We should walk upon the maritime sea. Yeah, basically, you're starting to know who you are, but it's metaphorical. And actually, Peter, like I said, means stone, and it is the stone of Rome, and stone represents the debt the Vatican collect, which keeps us as debt slaves. So it all kind of just links in. And actually, Jupiter, apparently, and this is from Logan, is the boss of this place, not Saturn. But apparently, we incarnate through the rings of Saturn, and we leave through the rings of Saturn. So we've got to kind of work this game out before we get to go, allegedly. But I mean,
Wow. So,
yeah,
okay, uh, the Dogon tribe believe that Sirius star system is where we go when we die, but they also say that there's a mothership parked as the 10th moon of Saturn, that is Phoebe.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw that in your video. Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, yeah. I
And then
saw
you say this about, we cross through the rings of Saturn to get to this afterlife thing, and man, I mean, there's no way that these two pieces of information that are seemingly isolated could be a coincidence. That's absolutely fascinating. So Saturn might not be necessarily the
that.
bad guy.
No,
It's
well, and I think he has a dualistic nature, but what he does is like your Book of Wonderful Suffering, Joe. Like basically, we kind of is suffering, is bad good and good bad? Because if everything happens to us is great and fine and dandy, then there's no growth there, is there?
right,
Actually, we become quite apathetic, and we become quite complacent. But when the bad comes, as awful as it is, and we go through it, when you actually do push through it, God, the rewards, as we know, you upshift, don't you? You become
right,
less of a player character, and you starting to really kind of yeah, start to kind of observe, I think, and
right,
to understand and get like it's a wisdom in it, and it's a wisdom kind of, it is done with love, but you also have, you've hung out with your demons and made friends with them, and what's interesting, if we think that we live in a simulation, a daemon, Daemon, is actually a computer program that runs in the background of computer, like say like a matrix that we're unaware of, and they call them demons or daemons. So we
right,
have our inner demons, don't we? We have our demons that we need to kind of, yeah, kind of go and make friends with, and then they become our allies
right.
in the quest, I think, if that
It's
makes
like the
sense.
old meme. I remember there's a meme that said, "What's up, demons? It's your boy,"
Yeah.
and that's the way it goes. And when you say that about suffering, I think a lot of the viewers here know today that it was my enormous amount of suffering over the course of 9 months. That nothing to do with pregnancy, by the way. That caused us to be talking right now, and for me to be here right now because I needed a sort of outlet. And yeah, it's amazing what incredible things embracing suffering will lead to. Exactly the same as exercise. it's suffering in the moment for amazing things later. And Ben says, "I just got here. Can you guys start over?" Um,
I'm
so
guessing it
I
might be recorded. I can't even remember what I said 1 minute ago, Ben. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, we're gonna ask him to go ahead and reset the video once we're done here. And he is a lot of my people here are very funny, and
Oh,
I
right.
appreciate them very much. I do want to say thank you to Frank real quick for the donation.
Oh,
And also Chief Nose has been in the cult for 8 months now. So sorry, don't want to derail you. But speaking of the carbon and the
mm,
666, what I find to be, and you can illuminate me on this a little bit. I just saw an article online that says that your garden at home might be producing more carbon emissions than the traditional way of farming
yeah,
food. What is on God's earth the traditional way
it's
of making
shockingly bad, isn't
food?
it?
In my garden, in my backyard, I've got a carrot and a tomato plant. I'm producing carbon emission. And speaking of which, that's all bullshit. But
Yeah,
speaking of
yeah.
which, they want to reduce carbon, but we're
Yeah.
carbon.
Exactly. Boom. That's what I always say. You are the carbon they want to reduce.
By the way,
Um,
I want to make it clear that pollution is, we shouldn't litter, we shouldn't be blasting. See, we shouldn't be we should be careful with our so-called carbon footprint. Flying jets and driving cars isn't helping very much, and I realize that when a volcano produces a buttload of carbon, things go extinct. So I realize that there is a danger there, and there's things that we should have to be careful about. But
yeah.
talking about don't have a garden in your backyard. What's next? Saying don't breathe? Like,
That's literally where I go with it because like I say, we are the carbon that they want to reduce. I think man-made carbon is something like 0.3%.
I
That's
don't know.
it. So
Okay.
yeah, and I actually watched a guy give a talk on it, far more eloquently than I ever could. It's not my but like I say, I'm a little algorithm angel. Like I kind of pick it up, but 0.3%. And and is it the fining, especially over here in this country, they are fining. You're paying to breathe now. That is
Oh my
literally,
God.
so basically they're saying if you go, if you've got a certain kind of car, if you've got, because obviously we know that the 2030 agenda, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You shall eat the bugs. You'll be in your 15-minute city, you'll be eating bugs, and there'll be no flying anywhere. You won't have a car. And you will be confined because that's basically what they want. Like you said, Joey, we are this energy. We are the electrical energy that these whatever this thing is needs. We are the gold that they came to mine, the Anunnaki or whomever, because
Right.
O is gold on the periodic table. It's AU. So authority, that's where authority comes from, the word authority. And you also get the archons, which apparently are the planetes above us. They are the archons, they are the authority above us. Um and and yeah, we're being mined. We're being a bit like in the Matrix, isn't it? I think the Matrix and films like Terminator have kind of got it bang on, really, because they're always telling us.
Right.
And certainly in films is where they have to reveal the method, isn't it? The revelation of the method.
Right. Tommy Truthful told me, and it was kind of disturbing to hear about predictive programming, talking
Yeah,
about that's why you see all these things, in pop culture before it actually happens. And
yeah, yeah.
it's like the layout for two world wars is on display in a museum, and it was written before World War I.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And again, this idea, I think there was, I can't remember the actual document, but I think it was one of soldier. Let's look at the word soldier. It's
Yeah.
soul dying, and these are blood sacrifices, huge blood sacrifices. And they're all, we know that the bankers back both sides. So the only people that ever win in these things are the bankers, etc., and so on.
Right.
But what happens is in this war, not only is it this huge energy harvest and blood sacrifice because they're a blood cult, right? They're the Draken, the Dracul, the Draco. That's where we get the word Draco from. That's where this blood serpent cult has, stemmed from. It's those bloodlines. for the life is in the blood.
Right.
But also they get rid of a lot of fighting age males, so they just have a huge cull of the men. Because if anybody was going to like work this shit out, as we'd say, and actually go up against them, it would be our men. So now they've found a different way, rather than an actual kind of war, as in, going in the fields and shooting each other. This is a different type of war. It's been an assault on the mind, hasn't it? And actually, with the jibber jabs, people have rounded themselves up and queued up and killed themselves. They've been injecting men with female hormones for at least the 50 years, through and females with male hormones. So again, it's that inversion, it's that baphometical, transgender, the inversion of what's natural. And
Right.
again, to get us, where men are just being these docile. They've even been putting female hormones on till receipts, never mind in the water and all kinds of stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, so that men are just becoming more and more like not wanting to, placid and not protect and then obviously the destruction of the family unit and the rest.
Right. I can't help but be reminded of some beautiful members of my community coming to rescue me, so to speak. Johnny, Doe, $50, dude. I'm gonna split this one with you, Callie. All right.
No,
'Cause
no, you must not, because the one thing that I want for Joey the most is so you can give up your job. You should be just doing what you do, like
well,
that is your work. And if you've got and your subscribers and fans, I've seen the chats and I've seen you interact with them, and you just
well,
such a
yeah.
beautiful pure heart. So if anyone deserves it, Joey, well, I don't like deserve, it's deserve, but anyway, yeah,
Well, yeah.
you
Despite
definitely do.
despite money being evil, certainly helps out quite a bit because I'm gonna buy
Yeah,
a very and Johnny, whatever book you want me to get and cover, you let me know because that is quite the donation. But
yeah.
oh man, I
And
was
well,
gonna say
another thing, Joey,
something.
they do say that money is the root of all evil. Well, how convenient for them, as they take all. I mean, there's no such thing as money because it's not backed by gold or silver. Because again, it goes back to that trust account. They took
Right,
all our gold and silver,
right,
when we had all the wars and whatnot, and then gave us fiat currency, fiat
right,
currency, and fiat means fake. So it's
right,
fake money. It's not backed by anything. But it's very convenient for them having it all while they tell us that it's evil and shit and for us to stay away from them. It's like, hang on a minute, we are all abundant, and but they don't want us to know that because then they lose that, that pyramid kind of structure of control. So
right.
yeah,
Alan Watts
show me the
said,
money.
PS says it's called filthy rich for a reason. And yeah, but
Um,
Alan Watts comes out, he talks about, he's like, how do you run out of something you made up? That's like showing up at the job site and saying, we can't do any work today. We ran out of inches. It's like
yeah,
you
yeah.
made it up, you know?
Yeah, oh
Ah,
yeah. And I mean, and then a big one for people who are watching, back to the sin or the sign, that's why you have to have a co-sinner, signer
right,
on legal documents, because there was two people allegedly that sinned in the Garden of Eden. So it's all back to biblical things. So you have a sinner or a signer and a co-signer. But when you actually sign, say you're going for a mortgage, mort means death, engage means pledge. So it's
yep,
actually a death pledge. And when you sign it, you are the creator. You actually create the credit, so it's yours. You're signing a promissory note. So $1 is a promissory note. A £50 note is a promissory note. So you're creating the credit, but in our ignorance, we sign it over to them and gift it them, and they leave us with a debt on this side of the ledger, even though we've already paid it off. And we have to, and that's why with your credit cards, your loans, they call it repaying because you're paying it twice.
right,
So you're constantly stuck in this debt, but it's the signature that is the value, and we don't realize what that creates because we are the creators. Because it
right,
goes back to being the dead fiction. They need you. They need you to be that piece of paper or think that you are this dead fictional all caps entity. Because look
right,
at everything's ruled by corporations now. Your government is a corporation. The United States of America, a state is a condition in a contract, and of means without in legalese. So they're constantly turning you into, they need the dead fiction to contract with, because corporate means dead speak. Court means dead and aura means speak. And the dead
right.
can't speak to the living, they can only speak to the dead. And that's how
Wow.
contract and commerce works. And we're all in contract and commerce now. That's it. Governments, I mean, we know that govern means comes from the Latin governare, and mens is the mind. So government literally translates as to control.
Wow. So
And this is the come.
this thing with mortgage, and
Yeah,
corporation corpse. It's
yeah,
all
corp
it's just
dead.
death and black law, and
Yeah, yeah, it's all dead and
it's
spelled,
so it's so obvious.
it's
It's
rituals. Yeah, rituals. And the judge actually he has three jurisdictions in a courtroom. The first one is landlord, and that means he owns you. The body is the land, so he owns you. If you push that jurisdiction, he then turns to maritime and admiralty, where you actually need an international contract in place. They never have one. But then they'll push it to the third jurisdiction, which is ecclesiastical, which is basically where he becomes a high priest of Baal. It's called the Talmud or the Talmuz. So he becomes a high priest of Moloch and Baal in his Saturnian robes. And if you win him at that level of his craft, then he has to quit being a judge and serve you. But find me someone who's done that yet, because
oh, I ain't
it's
seen
so
one
good.
that's not above the law, you know? And
Yeah,
for those who hearing it, you might be above the law, but you're not above the internet. So welcome to our world. Uh, Real quick,
exactly.
thank you, one man, for your $20 donation, and I might as well form a question out of his name because that reminds me of the word one. One ONE and WON, which caused a lot of confusion recently with my son playing a video game. He's like, "How do you spell one?" And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'm like, use it in a sentence. And he says, I have one. And I was like, you're going to have to be more specific because that means both things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and again, there's loads of it. What language, like literally everything you can like break down, and it always means something or something else.
Yeah.
Like again, we take it into maritime terms, and we'll have a look at some of the legalese. This is why we get friendship, craftsmanship, citizenship.
Shit.
Citizen actually means slave. So, it means municipal servant. So when people are saying, I'm a citizen of America, actually you're saying you're a slave of America. Because if you get America as a geographical landmass, so again, take the word sole of the foot, or soul, as in the body, or
Right.
sold, or selling. So
Right.
that's why we say you sold your soul. And this is why something always gets sold, or this is where we get selling from. We have cells in our body. You can go to a prison cell.
Yeah.
You have a cell phone, and the beat kind of keeps going on, but every word literally can mean something else. It has a dual meaning. So you get seamen on a boat, but you also get seamen. It's always sexualized as well. And when a baby is born, they cut off the placenta, don't they? And actually, we're supposed to leave it on, but they actually register. What they're registering is the placenta at the Vatican. So they take the placentas and they do some weird wacky shit with it. But placenta is it's a rich it's one of the rituals, you see. And actually placenta means cake. So this is why they get us to have birthday cakes on our birthdays, because your birthday isn't your born day. The day you were born, you were king for a lifetime. But when you read, oh, king for a day, sorry. But when you registered or registered into their system, you're fool for a lifetime. So every time you have a birthday and you get a cake, you are
Yeah.
celebrating, and celebrate means a ritual or rite. And the fact that your placenta is registered, and that you are a biological battery for the machine. So you're going through these kind of, you could call them satanic rituals. Whoever you think is in charge of this place, but that's the ritual of the birthday cake. And again, we're doing these rituals all the time, and we don't understand what they are. Same as
Right.
Christmas, Satan's, Santa, Xmas, X
Right.
again. This place isn't what we think it is. And back to the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's about to go bye bye. Because the straw man represents our legal fiction. The Tin Man represents our tax identification number. So we're given a social security,
That's
or
why it's heartless.
yeah, and then the cowardly lion is us like not knowing who we are until we find our raw, and we kind of we say no, like Neo in the Matrix. Is we need to say no to them, and we need even Halloween. They're just dark rituals, and we just go along with them willy nilly. Because one of the biggest dark rituals. I mean, think about it. If you're going into a church, and like we said, church is from the Roman goddess Circe, which means that she used to take people into her temple and brainwash them. But if you're going, it actually says in scripture, do not worship at an altar of wood and stone. So that's exactly what they get you to do. They put a
Right.
big altar of wood and stone, and they get
Literally.
you to turn the wine into the blood and the wafer into the flesh of Christ, right?
Right.
So basically, you are eating of the flesh and drinking of the blood, and it's cannibalism. And you're chanting it. Everyone's chanting it and turning it. And again, when you actually like look at that ritual from an overview, you're like, holy fuck, right?
Yeah.
Because it says in scripture, do not eat of the flesh and do not drink of the blood, for the life is in the blood. So they get you, that's exactly what they get you to kind of
Right.
what they do. The consecration, isn't it? And again, there's nothing, I think somebody put a comment, there's nothing wrong with being a follower of Christ, but
Right.
Christ is that consciousness or that archetype who would have been called Yah, really, would have been linked to Yah, not this Roman Christian pagan um made up fiction, I'm afraid. Sorry. If you worship in Christianity, you are at the synagogue of Satan there, I'm afraid.
So
I would say.
why did they make, and by the way, that's all, it's all good. Everyone on this channel is aware that we play devil's advocate even when it gets
Yeah,
uncomfortable, and that's fine. I am
and
a
don't listen to
follower
me.
of Christ. I believe in Jesus, and whether or not he was a literal person or a metaphor does not matter to me.
I'm
But
the same, I
it,
think the same.
right. So if he was created as a fallacy for deception, why they make him such a badass motherfucker? Like,
Well, this is what I mean. So Jesus is Jesus, which is Jupiter, which is Peter, which is the stone of Rome that collects the debt for Rome. Now, the Christ consciousness, Jesus wouldn't have been called Jesus Christ. If we
right,
break down the name, he would have been called, well, people say Yeshua, that came from Joshua. People say Joshua, but it was only invented about 500 years ago. There was no J, just like there were no vowels in Hebrew. So he would have
right,
been Yeshua. So I'm
right,
not saying I'm like you, Joey. I'm not saying whether he's an archetype or whether he was an actual living man. I actually think he did exist, but I don't, he wasn't called Jesus Christ. What they
right,
did was, if anything, they hijacked that and they
right,
turned it into a Roman civil system, called him Jesus, which is Jesus, which is Jupiter, and they do what they do. Because like I say, Jesus overturned, the money lenders in his father's temple,
right,
and temple is our temples.
right,
And Golgotha, you're crucified at Golgotha, but Golgotha means place of the skull.
right.
So it's us. We have to remove. I think he embodied all the things that we should be doing, but he railed against the church, didn't he? He railed against the institutions. He
Okay.
went up against them and they went, kill him, like they do
Right,
to all the prophets. I think he was a prophet, basically.
right,
And, again, he walked upon the maritime waters, which is the maritime unholy sea, which is the Vatican, the dog star of Sirius, and
right,
and the Bible is a code, like most things are codes. And it
right.
is like, as Bill Donahue, if people don't know Bill Donahue, he's a
My
huge
favorite.
biblical scholar. Oh, do you know
He's
Bill
my
Donahue?
favorite goober of all time.
Oh, I love him. He's
I know.
amazing, and he can decode this way better than I can. But he says it's a code for the adept, isn't it? Again, to keep the eyes of the profane away. Because if everybody knew this stuff, it would probably be, and didn't have the spiritual maturity to handle it. It'd be carnage and chaos. It's
Right,
not for everybody, I don't think. Which is why perhaps we're due a deluge.
right,
Back to square one, maybe.
right.
I don't
So we are starting over, Ben. Congratulations. Right.
know.
But all
Exactly.
right, so in a way, by making him a really good guy and a good example, by making him a person, you can essentially derail somebody from the Christos, which was
Yeah,
brought to my attention. Cregan of Cregan's Dark World, who does our intros on this channel, brought
yeah,
to me that the word Christ was existed before Jesus or Jesus or
yeah,
Yeshua did, and it's interesting. So it's like the word shoemaker. Somebody becomes, their last name becomes shoemaker because they're the best at making shoes, whereas
yeah.
Yeshua or Jesus was the best at rising the Christ oil within us,
The
and so
chrism
they
on.
called him Christ.
Yeah,
It became his name. But then the Romans came along and said, okay, we're going to follow this person instead of what the Christ actually is, which is
yeah.
within the temple of all of us, you know? or the
Yeah.
kundalini, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And the raising of the chrism oil, the raising of the kundalini, which again is, the serpent coil, isn't it? So again, everything has this kind of duality to it. But the land of milk and honey, again, is our pituitary gland, isn't it? And that we release this white secretion, and the honey is like I say, the chrism oil. I mean, Santos Bonacci talks about this a lot, and again, far greater than I can. I've got a really good book here actually, which is called. Let me grab it. And this guy talks about that a lot. This is a brilliant book, George W. Curry, and it's The Word
Ah,
Made Flesh. I
that,
don't know if you've
yeah,
heard of it.
I just
Yeah.
finished it. I got a slightly different version than you do.
Oh wow. I love this. I love it when your bookshelf is something else, though, isn't it? People, wow. I mean, absolutely love it. And
We got we. It seems like all my guests, we got all the same books, and the
yeah, yeah,
synchronicity is incredible. But yeah, this has several Bible verses that point
yeah.
directly to Kundalini.
Yeah. And straight is the gate, narrow is the way, and few there be that find it, which is obviously the 33 vertebrae. Christ was crucified at 33, and the rest, and that we bring it up, and
Right,
maybe that is what it's about, and that's why we do go through, like we said, this suffering, this suffrage, because we kind of have to get to this point, don't we? We have to kind of bring it into consciousness. In the law of one, it'll say it have to come through the roots, through the trunk to the tree of the mind. And you can think something for ages, can't you? And then all of a sudden one day you'll go
right.
and you'll just kind of get it. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden, yeah. And I think there's a calmness that comes with it. I'm not saying I haven't got any more long dark nights of the souls left, but I think you start laughing, don't you, at it?
Right,
I think when you start to see it for the way that it is, it's funny because you don't have the fear of it. You don't have the fear of
right,
death, which is instilled into us, by the Roman. I mean, I was brought up a Roman Catholic, so God, wow, they do try and do a number on you. But when you lose that fear,
right,
false evidence appearing real, that's what fear is, and you turn
right,
it to love in a cheesy way, but you just laugh. Why does the Buddha laugh? Because he gets it.
right. The cosmic giggle.
Yeah, that's it. The Divine Comedy.
That's what I always find to be fascinating, and everybody growing up around religion has had the same experience where they're getting this shoved down their throats, and it's very serious, and there's a dead guy on a stick, and there's blood, and there's and but then all of a sudden one day they see this Buddha guy laughing, and they're like, "Wait a second, oh, they're saying the same things, but this one's laughing about it." Which, by the way, if they dig a little deeper, Jesus also had a great sense of humor as well. They just leave that out.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, isn't it? He was a cool character, and I think, it's like Bob Marley said, isn't it? How long will they kill our prophets whilst we stand aside and look? And I think
Yeah,
Jesus was like somebody, an adept. Allegedly, he was like part of the Ascend, was he, or the Ascend tribe, and he perhaps trained in Egypt and in Kem
yeah.
during that time. I mean, I'm again, you know more about that than me. My chronology is
Well, there's
terrible.
the I've been
Honestly,
meaning to do a missing years of Jesus
that was yeah.
thing, soon. But like you had said earlier, I haven't gotten that moment yet where I have a click. The same with Edidorpa. Everyone's waiting for an Edidorpa episode from me, and I'm ready to do it. And I could spill my guts for 40 minutes and then do that episode, but I still haven't quite had that click yet where I totally get it. So I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
refraining
mystery of the
from that
Divine
for a
Kingdom.
minute. Right.
Yeah,
And that's kind
exactly.
of where when I know I'm ready to record one was whenever I have that particular moment. Otherwise I'm just
Mhm.
regurgitating information
Yeah,
in an echo
yeah, yeah.
chamber, which I try to refrain from. And that's the same thing with the Kundalini episode. Everyone's waiting for the Kundalini episode, but mine is dormant. So I haven't yet to get to that point, but I am working on it. Uh
Yeah, yeah, that's it, and it does like in it. You can sit with the because it's just information, isn't it? In a way, at that point, and you've got
right,
to kind of sit with it until it kind of goes, and it
right.
kind of, and then you can kind of connect the dots, which you kind of do beautifully. But yeah, I mean, I do talks in this country. The last 4 years since all this stuff happened, I just stuck a projector in the back of my van and toured around like a mad woman, telling people how the legal and the banking system works like a woman possessed. Sometimes
I can see outside a Quick Trip like everything's a lie. Like,
I was like that. It was like everything's a lie. No, I don't have a fucking link. Come on,
that's what I named this episode because you posted
It's
that a
just
while back, and that's what I think is so magical about that phrase. Everything is a lie, and no, I don't have a fucking link. Is the perfect way to illustrate to people this shit is all obvious. It's right in front of our faces. It's hidden in plain sight. By asking for a link, you are negating everything that's obvious down to a bullet point of being like, well, now
yeah,
it's approved to be understood. And now that the fact checkers have approved it, now here's a link. And you're like, we don't need this link. It's in a
yeah,
way would be more distracting in the first
yeah,
place to have a link for what is obviously right outside the black cube. We are immersed in it. It's like being underwater and saying that you don't want to be wet. You know, show me a link
yeah.
that says we're wet. Bitch, we're living in water. You know,
Exactly, exactly. I love that. Well, and I have this theory, like, and my new talk actually this year is going to be called. Well, not I'm not. It's called the law of the law. And again, how could the theme is really how can we heal from a history when we don't know what it is, and that's
right?
why it's been very cleverly done. But like you say, it is the question that drives us. Take the word question; it's got quest in it, and if
Yeah,
you don't ask the question, then you're not going to understand the answer. And then it goes to does everyone remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I always say
of
this, but
course. Yeah,
the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything was 42, right?
42.
So
Yeah,
the whole multiverse gather around the quantum, smartest computer in the multiverse and she says, and the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything is, and they all go, oh,
right,
42, and they all go, fuck 42,
right,
and it's this neural pathway idea. Unless you've asked the question, then you're not going to understand the answer, for it is the question that drives us. And that's what Trinity says to Neo in the Matrix after he's followed the white rabbit again linked back to time and going down the rabbit hole and all those kind of connotations. But she says to him, it is the question that drives us, Neo.
right,
So and that's like a huge thing for me, because then you get 42, 2 and 4, which is 6. The two fours are the X again. So you're going back into the XD codes and everything. And it all links back round, all comes back round. And like you say, once you've seen it, then you can't unsee it, and the
right,
dots then begin to connect. But you've asked, you've done it yourself. You've created it from your own consciousness and mindset set.
right, right. And that's again, the full circles here are absolutely staggering. If I feel like every time we jump into a new rabbit hole, that tunnel goes straight to the previous or original tunnel that we were,
Yeah,
talking about. And that's the thing is like you can't miss it. And if you miss it, you really are blind. You
yeah,
know, it's difficult. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
yeah,
Uh, and that is a blessing and a curse. It really is because you can't go back to being normal. I don't think
yeah,
I've seen many people who have noted that the bread and circus, the football, was invented to be a distraction and then go back to enjoying football. I mean, I
yeah.
guess I've seen some people do that, but there's an effort that takes place there that is willful ignorance to celebrate the superb owl, I think is how all the
Oh, yeah.
memes
Oh,
went.
yeah,
I don't,
the
yeah,
Super Owl, the Super Bowl, the owl, which is Moloch again. That's why you get Big Ben, in the UK as well. It's got an owl's face,
right.
and it's time, isn't it?
It's
Time, time,
time.
time, time, time. Clocks everywhere. Clock, clock, clocks. Oh my days! Has anyone seen the? Did you see the opening ceremony to to CERN when they opened CERN, where they're all zombies
No.
in front of a big clock, and Pan, the horned god, comes out because it's CERN comes from Cernunnos, which is the Pied Piper, or the horned god Pan. So it's got all this occult symbolism in it, and it always makes me laugh to this day. Some guy put in the comments, "Whatever happened to cutting a jolly old red ribbon?" We know that all this shit is so important to them, because again, they're telling us all the time exactly what's going to happen, but we just, for those that
Right.
have asked to see again, in it, it's like putting their live goggles on. It's like, oh, holy
Right.
hell, and it's like, oh my god. And again, it goes back to where we got to Lucifer, back to your original question. Lucy in the sky with diamonds, the flicker on the wall, the sigil of Lucifer, that we
Right.
are, they've hijacked our consciousness so that we kind of almost create this, hijack. What is a jack? It's electrical again. Back to X. X is the shape of a proton. X is a proton, and protons is light, and light is Lucifer, and light is the six, and it all goes back round, this is what the hanged man is in the tarot. This is us on the cross. This is us upside down, in the upside down. In
Right.
the inversion they've created, I think. And the proton again is the light codes for the simulation, or the matrix, or whatever we want to kind of call it. But I do believe that we can get out from my own direct personal experiences. And I did a video on my channel called Carly Decodes Clown World 4 if you're really interested in my how I saw cubes. I fell through timelessness and I saw cubes, and cubes
Yeah.
made spheres, and cubes can make spheres. And when I came back down, I was kind of puking up these cubes, but they were like black and green, like the Matrix. And I think we kind of, I mean, somebody asked me to ask you, do you think the Earth's flat or do you think that it's spherical? But I don't want to get into this, right? But this is my idea, right? I
Go.
think that it's everything. I think the planets are spherical and they're made from cubes, which is why the original unit of measure was cubits.
Right.
They talk about the building of the Ark in cubits, Solomon's temple, and the rest, whatever. And I think that's what I saw with my direct experience when I went to Source and fell through timelessness and then into time. And I saw cubes. But I also think that there's some kind of dome that all these planets kind of sit in, and that we kind of live in a sphere rather than on one, but then it has a protective spherical element. And then it goes back to your Agatha videos and stuff, Joey, where I do believe there's this inner earth. And I think there are races, perhaps, and beings, and I think maybe the Elohim or elites all kind of go there and hide in the pyramids or within the inner earth to survive these deluges that come. And I think that's why if people look at a place called Bhutan and the Tibetan temples that were built really high up into the mountains, I think those are the monks there perhaps used to protect the portals and or entrances into these other kind of almost, I think, the dimensional states, which you kind of touch in a lot on, your latest videos, which were amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
And that's kind of my theory. But I might just have, I don't
Well,
know, I've done too
I,
many acid trips.
I think no, I think you're spot on, and in fact, not only do I agree with that, but the only thing I would actually add to it is that there's a divide and conquer technique being used here. So, like, we do have a firmament, and that's the electromagnetic field, and it's not a glass dome. That's taking things way too literal. But right whenever conspiracies started really popping between 9/11 and the one guy, he had an island. I don't want to say his name. He got busted. And then, Clinton got a BJ, which covered up that entire story, and I shouldn't even have said that name. But anyways, right whenever those things were really coming to a precipice, the flat Earth thing exploded, and it took over, and they're everywhere. For example, David Icke is banned from everything. Right, he can't post anything because he is
Yeah,
spreading so-called false information. But you're allowed to make 12 flat Earth videos in a row, and nobody's going to stop you. It's a way, so us people, we're on the same side, right?
yeah,
And it's a way to divide the conspiracy and spiritual community into two and have us fighting over, Democrat, Republican, rich or poor, male or female. It's another form of, you throw a wrench into a community that seems to be climbing and they're onto something, and then you throw a wrench into it. Now we can argue over the shape of the earth, which in fact doesn't matter at all. We've got bigger fish to fry. And
yeah.
really, when you get down to it, if the universe is holographic, it really doesn't matter what
Yeah.
shape the earth is.
Exactly, and perception, I think, is a key word there. We all have a perception, and maybe, if you are the creator and we're all kind of co-creating with each other as well. Whether our conscious, we know our conscious is trying to be hijacked, hence why they want to stick us in virtual reality and a dream within a dream, and that's why Generation X, there's the X again, are holding back these two.
A wrench into the gears with everything, because if we
Yeah,
can make something taboo or forbidden that isn't necessarily on its own merit bad, then you can cause a lot of people to fight over stuff that doesn't even matter at all. Static in Wonderland, thank you very much for your donation. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Uh,
brilliant. I
well,
know there was a Yeah, there was, I'll just finish on one thing. I know we're probably getting on, but there was a lady, and I perhaps want your thoughts on this because somebody said like, "What does Israel mean?" And I did this in a bit of a decode. I think it was in Climb World 2. I think it was 2. And is Isis, Ra is Ra, the sun god. Isis was the consort of Saturn of Kronos, actually. Interesting. And then the El is the god or the powerful ones. And I think those are the wanderers, are the archons. I think that represents that, but you might say something different actually. So I was interested in that. But certainly how with all the troubles that are going on over the moment, what they've done is the children of Israel, or the sons and daughters, because children means chattel in legalese. So the sons and daughters of Israel is actually all of us who find our way back to to the creator, to that divine spark and stuff within. But what they've done is they've created a state of Israel. So like in America, as a good example, you'll have the state of Florida. So
mhm.
state is a condition in a contract. Of in legalese means without. So the state of Florida means the state without Florida. So the geographical landmass Florida is real, but the state of Florida is a fiction. Just as you've got the
Huh.
United States of America, state is a contract. Of means without, so it's the states without America, and that's how they turn it into a corporate entity. But
Wow.
actually, the geographical landmass Israel is completely different to what the Cabal have created. It's a Rothschild Zionist creation, Israel. And that's what I kind of know about that. But what do
Brian's
you?
World just said that as you were saying it. That was kind of creepy.
Cool. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian. But yeah, I saw it pop up, and it was something like, say, I talked about it a little bit on my channel. I think Carly does climb well too. So if you find that interesting, I did talk a little bit more in detail about what that actually means. But when we kind of get to back to spirit, and we understand, we kind of we become Israel itself. But actually, apparently, the Holy Land was Scotland and England. Oh, this is an interesting one. Before I'll go on, I, I'm
You're
going
good.
on. Albion, with the giants, England used to be called Albion. Now, Albion comes from albino, which is linked to the giants. And when the Watchers fell down, on the Paramount and
Uh-huh.
mated with, human women and created the Nephilim, which are
Yeah.
the giants, like I say, England is actually Albion, which means land of the giants. And Albion is albino because obviously the Nephilim had white skin and red hair. So again, they stuck out like an absolute, huge sore thumb.
Right.
And yeah, and then that's why you get the Nephilim represented as clowns with the red hair and
Really?
yeah, yeah. So McDonald's, the red, the yellow, and the orange colours again are the lower base energy colours to try and keep you stuck in material. Clowns everywhere, which is why I call Carly D codes clown
Right.
world.
Right.
It links
Well,
back to that. So
how strange is it? Like all the fast food places, their logos are all red and yellow. Ronald McDonald is a clown, quite literally.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
whenever people do dimethyltryptamine
yeah.
and they don't take it too seriously, they see clowns. Very specifically,
Yeah,
they see clowns. And now I didn't know that about the Nephilim having
yeah,
white skin
yeah,
and red hair. I have heard that about giants, uh,
yeah, yeah.
but I didn't
And
know
that's
there was
why
a connection.
you get the white skin and blue eyes. Obviously comes from this idea of this Aryan race, or because they lacked melatonin in their skin, and actually melatonin allegedly is more expensive than adrena.
I see.
But yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that and apparently, obviously, the Nephilim survived the floods and the deluge, and again, they've
Right.
just they've just hidden it from our history again.
That was the purpose, according to the Bible, of the flood was to rid not necessarily of humans, but of
Yeah,
the Nephilim, right?
yeah,
But
because they
that
were
didn't
doing that.
necessarily work because I like the Spanish conquistadors had a huge problem with giants,
Yeah,
which I don't think are necessarily Nephilim per se, right? But
yeah,
the
yeah.
offspring, like
Very, yeah, very potentially, yeah. And again, we just kind of don't know our history. It's been removed from us
right,
purposely, hasn't it? Like Canada. Canada means this is Canaan. That's where that comes from. Canada means this is Canaan. So that's, and also in the Ukraine, where Russia and the Ukraine, all that kind of issues. Ukraine was old Khazaria, and the Khazarians were the slave traders of old, and Khazaria was Canaan. That's what it means, Slavic, from the Slavic countries. Just as Europe comes from Europa, and she
Is
was,
that so?
yeah, I think was she Egyptian? I think another Roman goddess was Europa. So again, all these countries, we've just forgotten. But when we
Right,
decode
but we
language,
continue to name our things after these things. It's almost like it's embedded into our
mm,
psyche so strongly that you can erase history all you want, but it's essentially the same as burning a book because
yeah,
those who have read the book now
yeah,
carry it with them. So there's no way to erase history as long as we, I guess, have gnosis, and
yeah,
remember who we are and everything. They can erase history all they want, but it's going to be like scribbling over a page,
yeah,
which I
yeah. That's
suppose
it.
gives us a
Yeah,
little hope.
know thyself, isn't it?
Right,
And like I say, it goes back to that remembering, some kind of deep knowing that's deep down inside me, that I just kind of this 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 feels familiar, right?
right. Yeah,
I think I've been here many, many times. It's like, oh, it's like death, isn't it? Cake of death. I'll have death, please. No, I mean cake. Oh, death. Well, just some more
right,
death,
right.
and it's just like, oh, do we have to come back, or when we've worked out the game, do we get to go? Because when you kind of say the moon is this huge kind of recycling center, because apparently the moon obviously wasn't there and then it appeared, in ancient text, didn't it?
Yeah, that's
So
very strange. I've been
the Death
fascinating
Star,
about that
I
for a
call it.
while. The Zulu tribe talk about the time before the moon. And,
Exactly.
yeah, and they describe what the Earth was like before the moon, and that actually, uh, lines up with our science and our estimations about what the Earth would have no seasons,
Yeah,
and there would be
yeah,
no rain, instead it'd be a heavy, thick, mist, and that's exactly how they describe the world without the moon, but at the same time, there's
yeah,
also cave paintings of moon
yeah.
cycles, but I don't know if that's either maybe sun cycles or not, but
I don't
it
trust the moon.
is
I look at it and I go, "Hmm." I'm
What are
like
you up to?
like it's the Death Star, like
Right,
dun, 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 dun,
right, right.
dun. And
Oh,
then Truman, in the Truman Show, Christoph kind of controlled Truman from the moon, didn't he? Like it was that
yeah,
kind of
and
thing as well, the true man. But
the
you
the,
know,
uh the moon, uh, what was the thing, about the Truman you mentioned the Truman Show. Oh, man, how does it escape me so quickly? I was gonna tell you 2 things.
oh
Maybe
yeah,
the
the
first thing
Truman.
will, jog my memory or whatever, but, I was
Yes,
talking to a 3-year-old toddler
yeah.
yesterday. And if you ever wanna learn the deepest meanings of
No, I
the
don't know.
essence of yeah, reality itself, talk to a toddler because they got it all figured out. But her mom told me that she was going on, the other day about a magic storm coming from the sky, and she was saying this at the same time that, AT&T, got wiped out due to a solar flare, supposedly, right? So I was like,
Yeah,
"Well, I'm gonna talk to this 3-year-old about that." I was like, "Tell me about the magic storm." Completely unprompted, this 3-year-old was like, "Well, there's a magic storm, it's coming from the sky, but, there are people on the moon who are protecting us from the magic storm." And I was like, "Wow." So then I called, one of my friends who is a member of this community and asked them about solar flares and stuff like that, and while she was telling me about these things, she said that mass corona ejections from the sun are
yeah.
oftentimes we are protected by the magnetic field of the moon. This is
Interesting.
exactly what a 3-year-old just told me, but referred to it as magic. I
Yeah.
was
It's true though,
absolutely
isn't it? 'Cause they don't
flabbergasted.
have that, the veil's not thick in them, isn't it? And veil is evil backwards, that's what the veil
Yeah,
between our cultures and subculture, but they don't have that. They're still in magic. They still see things perhaps as, they're not, yeah, they've not been brainwashed, and you block it out, don't you? And I think it is, that's part of it, isn't it? When we kind of get back to our childlike state within us and become playful and
yep,
creative, like the way you create with your child, that's what brings you closer to the divine, doesn't it?
right.
Without going too
Closer to
deep.
source. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jesus
that's it.
said, you
Yeah.
can't enter heaven unless you, revert to being like a child. You have to believe like a child to
I
enter
did.
the kingdom of heaven. Right.
We're all
exactly.
right then.
And a big part of being childlike is curiosity, asking
Mhm.
questions that are difficult, you know? Well, all right, before we end this, and this is a great, we had a great chat today. This is one of my
Yeah.
favorites by all means.
Oh, thank you.
I was I couldn't help but remember that this is the first book I ever first books I ever read was Animorphs. It was like a series, but and that's
Yeah.
where I got into reading when I was very young. But the first like off the wall book that I ever read, one of them was like the power of your subconscious mind. But one of them that really got me into the whole world is bullshit and everything's lying to you was this one called Mind Programming. And I lost it along the way, but I had to go out and buy another copy of it. But I think you would find this to be fascinating. And just like, okay, for example, it goes into advertising. Like this is an advertisement right here. And this person, Eldon Taylor, breaks down the ice cubes you probably can't see it, but
Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I can see it, yeah. And it's cold in the ice, yeah.
and there's 100
Yeah,
examples of this in the book, but it also goes into the language of advertising as well and how
right.
it is used to in order to control, uh, mind programming, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and Disney are huge fans of that, aren't they? Everything's sexualized in their
Oh
images.
man,
I mean, it's you go. I mean, we haven't got loads of time to get into that, but certainly go and look at it. And actually, interestingly, legally, talking about jurisdictions and states, they tried to tax Disneyland, and actually, they couldn't do it. The governor of Florida went, "Hang on a minute, why is Disney not paying tax? We're not having that, yada yada." But actually, they found out that it's still owned by the crown. So even though it's in Florida, the
yeah.
jurisdiction is of the crown in England. Because why? Because it's city, and that's kind of how they roll, isn't it? But
So
without
it
trying to,
must be a religion then. Like the NFL doesn't pay taxes despite being $1 billion corporation, and they
yeah,
get away
yeah,
with not having taxes because they have rituals. That makes
yeah,
them a
yeah.
religion.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it goes back down to how you're talking about subliminal messages in advertising, and I like how in your videos, Joy, you kind of you'll slot in a few subliminal messages like of NSYNC and stuff. Like I spot them, and it's
Thank you for
definitely.
actually watching. A lot of people listen to the videos while they're at work, and
Oh
by the way,
yeah,
that's great. I love that. I'm
I'm
still getting
visual. Yeah, I'm
right.
totally visual. I'm audio and visual. I mean, I'm good at reading. I like it all really, but no, I like to watch. I like to watch. But yeah, they can actually, like the news. I mean, let's take the news. They actually class that as a commercial or an advert. So if you buy into it, that's how they get to lie, just completely lie, because it's
Right.
actually legally classed as a commercial. And if you buy into it, well, more fool you, yeah.
Yeah, and I've always said that technically advertising is legal lying. That's all it is. Is how much can we lie and get away with it? And if
Yeah,
anybody's seen any commercials ever, it's always like $1 down. We're not turning anybody down. You come in here, you're gonna leave with a car, and then there's a voice at the end that's like, some restrictions apply. You're not gonna get shit.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's legal lying, and that's it's sad.
And,
It's fascinating, but we
and
have to
listen,
grow with.
I'll finish with this one because I'll be here all
All right.
day, I know.
Sure.
But the English language, we talk in adverb verb, so we talk in past and future tense, never in
Right.
the present, never in the now. So lawyers are actually taught to they're taught to talk in adverb verb. So you're never in the real, in the now, and it's just like complete fiction as well. And it's like
Wow.
it's all linked to time again, because that's why you get AM and Eve is PM. So Adam, AM, Adam, and Eve
Okay.
is the night. So again, and it links all back to time and language, and that's basically what this construct is. Those two main things, time and language, and the deconstruction of them. And when we
Yeah.
escape time, we escape. But and have you seen Michael Jackson's album as well? That's Escape. It's called
Oh, with
X,
the Saturn.
Escape, and the Saturn ring around his head. So if that's not a clue off all Wacko Jacko, then I don't know what is, and I'll shut up on that note.
Michael Jackson is no, and you're good. Michael Jackson is proof of how if you want to signal to people the truth of what's going on, they will ruin your reputation. Because
Yeah.
Michael Jackson never touched any children sexually.
I like to not think so. I
No,
just
well,
can't.
Macaulay Culkin
It's
came
not that he's
out.
dead.
No, well, Michael Jackson didn't get a childhood,
No,
period.
he didn't. No,
So
no.
he wanted to relive his childhood, so he had slumber
Yeah.
parties and amusement parks and stuff like that, and Macaulay Culkin came out talking, he's like, "Dude, Michael Jackson never touched any kid sexually, he just wanted to be a kid again." And who
Yeah.
wouldn't?
And well, that's that theory, and I kind of always really hope that's true. And I mean, the thing is as well with Michael Jackson. Have you seen Dave Dave? If people haven't seen Dave Dave, right? Dave Dave is basically after Michael Jackson Dave died. He
Yeah,
basically came back to because he always used to wear prosthetics to go out in public. And if
right,
that's not Michael Jackson, please do go on YouTube and type in Dave Dave. If you can't find Dave Dave, this is Michael Jackson. Now, what they did when we all started cottoning on that that was Dave Dave was Michael Jackson. Now, this is after he's died, allegedly. They actually replaced Dave Dave with a different Dave Dave. So actually, that wasn't even Dave Dave. It gets weird, but basically, Dave Dave was somebody who was in a Burns was a Burns victim and survived. His father set a light to the house alight, and he was inside at the time. So he basically Michael Jackson passed himself as a Burns victim called Dave Dave. You've never seen
wow.
anything like it, and if people can't find the link, email me and I will send it to you.
Well, hey, will you send it to me on Facebook Messenger? Because
Oh
I
my god,
gotta
I'll
see that.
totally send it to you. And there's another one with David after David Bowie died, another guy that came along who looks just like Bowie, and they pixelate his face a little bit, talking about the death of David Bowie, saying that he's an A&R man who was linked to David Bowie and used to promote David Bowie, but it's David Bowie. So the same
Right,
shit. I mean, we are in the realms of conspiracy here. But I'm
right.
telling you, the Michael Jackson one you cannot deny. All right, the Bowie one you could argue, but then they found the actual A&R man who he was pretending to be, and he had a completely different face, teeth, and I'll send you that one as well, but and then
Well, I know
you can
better than to think that David Bowie could possibly die. That's impossible. There's no
and
way.
again, I think they slip out of the theatre, like William Shakespeare said, "The whole world is a stage." I
Yeah.
think they slip off the stage, because maybe they're getting ready to kinda go into a different avatar body, and again, survive the deluges, they know what's coming, and then these players become immortal and they go for immortality. But again,
Wow.
it's just a bit of a theory of mine,
It's a
kind of.
theory, and I mean, what else is a
I can
theory
back
is
it
that,
up.
I mean, well, when you listen to Michael Jackson speak and you listen to his singing voice, he doesn't have testicles. And he was castrated by like the Catholic Church does whenever they want to
Yeah,
keep your
yeah, they
boyish.
do that. Yeah, there's a lot of trans, and I talk a lot about kind of transvestigations. Not a lot, but again, you perhaps have to come and see my channel for that. It's a big topic, and they do take it too far, but there's a lot in it that is definitely worth the question. For it is the question that drives us. But I'll
Yes,
totally send you those two videos, Joey, because there's no mistaking at all that is Michael Jackson. I'm 99.99999% sure. There's no way. And the fact that they replaced Dave Dave with another Dave Dave, there's no flies
that's
on me.
weird.
I'm
It
sorry,
makes
Dave.
it weirder. It makes it so
That's weird.
construed. I can't wait to check this out. Well, all right. I'm gonna let you go. And a quick heads up. Don't be surprised if the latter one third of this video gets edited. And for those of you who are listening right now, congratulations because you're hearing
To the cut.
there at the end.
We did. We did. We
I'd
did.
expect none less from you. So
The dark matters, right?
dark matters indeed.
And we do have a network, and it's free. The membership's free to join. Find me on my channel, and the links are there. But we run lives from there on all kinds of different
Right.
educational topics, like from crypto to quantum healing to law, legal, every number of
Everything.
things, and
I'm
they're
a
all
member. I'm a member of the Dark Matters community,
you
and I
are.
get the email updates,
Yeah.
and never regretted it ever since. And that's why you're on the show here again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real honor. It's beautiful. I love it.
Thank
I
you
love
very much. All right. Well, have a
it.
good day. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye, guys. See ya.